Another edition of the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. Tom Leach here, along with Keeneland's director of simulcasting, Jim Goodman. We're doing a podcast for every racing day of the spring meet, and on Thursday, that means an allowance feature, and looks to be a pretty well-matched group that has, I think there's some real talent down the road in some of these lightly raced horses. How do you see the eighth?
Yeah, I had 5 horses circled here to pick from. Actually, I think Bluff is going to get overbet for Larry Jones coming out of the Risen Star and got beat by International Star and War Story, who are going on to the Derby. So you look at that race back on the 21st of February, and he was 8 3/4 behind the Superstars. So I think Bluff is going to get bet. I think Donworth is going to get bet off that first time out win by Graham Motion. But the horse that I settled on here is a Brian Lynch horse called Shaman Ghost. And the horse has only won a maiden race, but I love the Beyer progression from 47, 58, 68 to 77. So it's an improving 3-year-old, maybe a little late developing. Got beat by 3 Ring Circus, and it's a knockout first 2 times out at Woodbine and Gulfstream. So I'm going to take a price here on Shaman Ghost and hope he can beat Bluff. I'm going to use Bluff, Donworth. Pioneer of the West is an interesting shipper for Mark Cassidy, the one horse. Didn't run a step at Oaklawn, but went off favorite at 7-5 off the sham run at Santa Anita. So Pioneer of the West may like Keeneland's track more than he liked Oaklawn. And then Outlash, the Pletcher horse you got to use on the outside of the 7 hole from Velasquez. So I'm going to key Shaman Ghost on top of Pioneer of the West, Donworth, Bluff, and Outlash.
It was tough to narrow this down. The Lynch horse is the last one I ended up leaving out of my plays. I ended up going to Outlash. The first reason, I love horses who can win first out at 7 furlongs. That's usually, I think, a good indication of a horse with some talent, and this horse did that. Now he's making his second start, and I looked at the Clocker report for the entries, and you can go to the Keeneland website, Keeneland.com, and under the entries, there's a section for Clocker's reports, and you can find what they call the In Today reports. So for each racing day, horses that are entered that day that have caught the eye of the Clockers, they'll make note of that. And this is one that did. The Clockers took note of the last work and how impressive it was. So for those reasons, I'm going to take the 7, Outlash, and use them with Bluff, the 5, the 4, Donworth, and the 1, Pioneer of the West, all horses that you mentioned. And if you want to go one more, the Lynch horse would be the next one that I would use. But I would definitely want to spread out in this race in the Pick 4, which we'll move to now, which starts the late Pick 4 in the 6th race on Thursday. And in the first leg, they're on the turf if it stays there. I'm going to assume that it does. And I like English Sunset and Quinte Verde. Like those two a lot. I'm also going to throw in Sonoma de Oro, so the 6, 3, and 10. But if you want to shrink the ticket, I'd focus on 6 and 3. 7th race, I'm going to go 4 deep with West Coast Chick, my pick off a long layoff for Zito. Second start off a long layoff, and his horses a lot of times will really improve that second start. So I'm going to use 7 along with the 6, the 5, and the 1. In the feature, I'm going to use all the horses I mentioned, 7, 5, 4, 1, and then I'm going to single Moonlit Meteor in the 9th, the 5 horse. What's your pick 4 look like?
Well, mine's exactly like yours at the end because I singled Moonlit Meteor in the last, so I built my ticket from the back and built a $52.50 ticket. And that's using, in the first leg, I'll use the 1, Lowe's Illusion, the 3, Quinte Verde, the 5, Run Zippy Run, the 6, English Sunset, and Sonoma Doro, the 10, but I'd also throw in, if they get in, 13 Right Decision and 14 Kitten's Angel. They're on the also eligible list, and if they draw in, you've got to use both of them. So that would be 7 horses with the 1, 2, 6 in the second leg. That's Birdmaker for Ian Wilkes, Elusive Fate for Rusty Arnold, the 2, and the 6, Cinnamon Spice, which is my top pick for Larry Jones and Kerwin Clark, who, by the way, this weekend won his first Grade 1 at Keeneland. Kerwin Clark's been riding for probably 30 years. He won his first Grade 1 in the Central Bank Ashland, so that was pretty cool for Larry Jones. And then the 8th race, the feature race, I would use the 5 horses that I discussed, Pioneer of the West, the 1, Donworth, the 4, Bluff, the 5, Shaman Ghost, the 6, and Outlash, the 7, with King, the 5 in the last race. I think that's $52.50 if you use the 2 also eligibles.
So that's who we like for the feature on Thursday and the late Pick 4, and we'll take a look at each racing card in that fashion throughout the spring meet. And then on Saturdays, we do a separate podcast to check out the other great stakes races around the country, which on this Saturday will include the Arkansas Derby Day card out at Oaklawn Park. Best of luck on your wagers. For KeenelandSelect.com, this is the In the Money podcast.